Beautiful and amazing people from all walks of life. USA, Europe, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya. Get ready for an unforgettable experience. Gather your family on a beautiful sunset evening and immerse yourselves in this epic tale filled with mystery, intrigue, and entertainment. Savedom AI proudly presents this beautiful queen has a secret. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey.
Rustling leaves, secrets keep, footsteps of the lost where the willows weep.
In the heart of an ancient African kingdom, where the rivers float like molten gold under the setting sun, there lived a queen so beautiful that poets ran out of words to describe her. Queen Nyarai was her name, graceful, mesmerizing, and untouched by the passing of time. Her skin shimmered like polished ebony. Her eyes held the wisdom of forgotten gods, and her voice was as soft as the evening breeze. Yet, beneath her beauty lay a dark and terrifying secret. A secret that turned her kingdom into a place of whispered fears and unanswered disappearances. Some said she was blessed by the gods. Others believed she was cursed. But the truth was far worse than anyone could imagine. One fateful evening, a mysterious traveler named Kwame arrived at the palace gates. He was a wandering scholar, a seeker of knowledge, and a man unafraid of ancient myths. He had heard the rumors of Queen Nyarai's otherworldly beauty, but he had also heard something far more chilling: that every man who had courted her had vanished without a trace. Yet he did not fear. Instead, he was determined to uncover the truth. At the royal feast that night, Kwame watched as Queen Nyarai sat on her throne. Her beauty almost unnatural. The men around her stayed in helpless adoration, as if under a spell. But Kwame's sharp eyes caught something strange. Her shadow moved differently from her body. His heart pounded. What kind of sorcery was this? Determined to investigate, Kwame roamed the palace under the cover of darkness. As he wandered the silent halls, he noticed that one particular room was always locked. The guards avoided it, and the servants spoke of it only in fearful whispers. It was called the Chamber of Echoes. Kwame knew he had to enter, but as soon as he touched the door, a sudden chilling voice echoed in his mind. "Leave now, or you will suffer the fate of the others." He stumbled back, heart racing. Who was speaking to me? And then he saw it. A pair of glowing eyes staring at him from the darkness. Kwame was not the type to flee from danger. That night he hid in the shadows and watched as Queen Nyarai slipped into the forbidden chamber. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Inside the room, the walls were covered in ancient carvings, depicting a monstrous entity with hollow eyes and twisted limbs. And in the center of the room, a golden mirror stood tall. But it was no ordinary mirror. Its surface was alive, rippling like water. Queen Nyarai approached it, and as she gazed into its depths, her reflection smiled back at her, but she had not moved. Then the mirror whispered in a language that had not been spoken for centuries. You belong to me. You must feed me tonight. Kwame realized a horrifying truth. This was no ordinary queen. She was bound to something ancient, something hungry. Queen Nyarai had made a terrible bargain. Decades ago, as a young maiden, she had discovered the mirror in the ruins of a forgotten temple. The spirits within had promised her eternal beauty, power, and admiration, but at a terrible cost. For every year you remain beautiful, you must sacrifice the soul of a man who desires you. That was why her suitors vanished. She fed their souls to the mirror to preserve her youth. And now it was Kwame's turn. Kwame had two choices: run or break the curse. As Queen Nyarai turned to face him, her eyes glowed with an eerie golden light. The mirror's whispers grew louder, demanding its next victim. But Kwame was no ordinary man. He had spent years studying lost magic, and he knew that every curse had a weakness. With a swift movement, he grabbed a silver amulet from his pouch and held it high. The mirror screamed, its surface shattering into 1,000 shards. The entity inside roared in rage, a shadow twisting and writhing like a dying beast. Queen Nyarai let out a painful cry as the magic that kept her young began to unravel. Her skin cracked, her beauty faded, and for the first time in decades, she aged. By dawn, the kingdom awoke to a new era. The queen, now frail and aged beyond recognition, wept as she saw her true reflection for the first time in years. Her power was gone. She was finally free, but at what cost? Kwame, victorious but shaken, left the palace without a word. He had uncovered the truth, but he had also destroyed a woman's entire existence. As he disappeared into the horizon, the kingdom whispered of the man who had defeated the cursed queen. But deep in the ruins of the forgotten temple, among the broken shards of the mirror, a single piece remained untouched. And if you listen closely enough, you could still hear it whispering, "Find me, and I will make you beautiful too." As Kwame disappeared into the horizon, the kingdom whispered of the man who had defeated the cursed queen. But the truth was far more complex. Kwame's journey had begun years ago, when his younger brother Kofi had vanished while searching for the legendary Queen Nyarai. Their village had spoken of the queen's breathtaking beauty, but also of the strange occurrences surrounding her. Kwame had vowed to find his brother, and his case had led him to the ancient kingdom. Now, as he walked away from the palace, Kwame couldn't shake the feeling that he had only scratched the surface of a much larger mystery. The mirror's whispers still echoed in his mind, and he wondered what other secrets lay hidden in the ruins of the forgotten temple. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, Kwame arrived at a small village on the outskirts of the kingdom. The villagers, though weary of outsiders, welcomed him warmly, offering food and shelter for the night. One of the villagers, an elderly woman named Aqua, approached Kwame with a curious gaze. "You are the one who defeated the cursed queen," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But do you know the true nature of the curse?" Kwame's eyes narrowed, intrigued. "Tell me," he urged. Aqua glanced around the village, ensuring they were alone. "The mirror was forged in the depths of the underworld," she began. "A powerful entity, known only as a devourer, created it as a tool to harvest the souls of the living. Queen Nyarai, desperate for beauty and power, made a pact with the devourer, trading the souls of her suitors for eternal youth." Kwame's mind reeled as he processed the revelation. "But what about the mirror's whispering?" he asked. "What did it mean by 'find me and I will make you beautiful too'?" Aqua's expression turned grave. "The mirror is not destroyed, Kwame. It is merely shattered. Its pieces scattered across the land, and the devourer, sensing its creation's demise, was stopped at nothing to reclaim its power." As the night wore on, Kwame realized that his journey was far from over. The curse might be broken, but the true battle had only just begun. And so, with a newfound sense of purpose, Kwame set out to uncover the truth about the devourer, the mirror, and the mysterious entity's ultimate goal. The fate of the kingdom, and perhaps the world, hung in the balance. Kwame's quest for answers led him to a dusty, forgotten library, hidden deep within the village. The air was thick with the scent of aged parchment and forgotten knowledge. Aqua, the elderly woman, had told him that the library held ancient texts that might shed light on the devourer and its creation. As Kwame delved into the stacks, his fingers tracing the spines of one leather tomes, he stumbled upon a mysterious textbook in black cloth. The cover was adorned with strange symbols that seemed to shift and writhe in the flickering candlelight. The title, "The Chronicle of the Devourer," was etched in bold, crimson letters. Kwame's heart quickened as he opened the book, releasing a whisper of forgotten knowledge into the air. The Chronicle spoke of the devourer as an ancient entity, born from the darkness of the underworld. It was said to feast on the souls of the living, growing stronger with each passing century. The mirror, forged in the depths of the underworld, was a tool to harvest souls. As Kwame read on, he discovered that the devourer's power was not limitless. It had a weakness, a secret hidden in the ancient text. Kwame's eyes widened as he read the words, "Where shadows dance, the devourer's power wanes. Seek the reflections burn, forged in moonlight's pale rays." Kwame's mind racing, he realized that he had to find the reflections burn, a mysterious artifact created to counter the devourer's power. But where could it be? And what did the phrase, "where shadows dance," mean? As he pondered these questions, the candlelight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Kwame felt a shiver run down his spine. He was not alone in the library. A figure, shrouded in darkness, watched him from the shadows. Kwame's heart pounded as he wondered if he had just stumbled into a trap. Kwame's eyes scanned the darkness, trying to pinpoint the location of the mysterious figure. The air was thick with tension as he slowly rose from his seat, his hand instinctively reaching for the silver amulet around his neck. "Who is there?" Kwame called out, his voice faint but cautious. The figure didn't respond, but instead took a step closer, its presence seeming to fill the room. Kwame's heart pounded as he tried to make out the figure's features, but it was shrouded in an impenetrable darkness. Suddenly, the figure raised its hand, and the candlelight flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Kwame felt a surge of fear as the figure began to move closer, its hand outstretched. But just as suddenly, the figure stopped, its hand hesitatingly in mid-air. Kwame's eyes locked onto the figures, and for a moment, they stared at each other. The only sound the heavy breathing of the mysterious figure. Then, in an instant, the figure vanished, leaving Kwame shaken and bewildered. The candlelight returned to normal, casting a warm golden glow over the room. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. What had just happened? Who was that mysterious figure? As he pondered these questions, Kwame's eyes fell upon a small roll of parchment on the floor. It was tied with a black thread, and a small silver charm in the shape of a moon hung from the thread. His curiosity got the better of him, and he picked up the parchment, untying the thread. As he unrolled it, he saw that it was a cryptic message. "Meet me at the old windmill on the outskirts of the village at midnight. Come alone." The message was unsigned, but Kwame had a feeling that it was from the mysterious figure. What did they want from him? Kwame looked at the silver charm, and a shiver ran down his spine. He knew that he had to go to the meeting, but he was also aware of the danger that lay ahead. Kwame's mind was racing as he approached the old windmill on the outskirts of the village. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. He had come alone, as the message had instructed, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he entered the windmill, he saw a figure waiting for him in the shadows. It was the same mysterious figure from the library, its features still obscured by darkness. "Who are you?" Kwame demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The figure stepped forward, revealing a woman with piercing green eyes and long, flowing hair as black as the night. She was dressed in a flowing white gown, and a silver circlet adorned her brow. "I am Arana," she said, her voice low and husky, "and I have been waiting for you, Kwame." Kwame's eyes narrowed. "What do you want from me?" Arana smiled, her eyes glinting in the moonlight. I want to help you defeat the devourer, she said. But first, you must help me. Kwame's instinct told him to be cautious, but he was also desperate for any information that could aid him in his quest. What do you need me to do? He asked. Arane's smile grew wider. I need you to retrieve an ancient artifact from the hearts of the forest, she said. It is the only way to defeat the devourer and shatter the curse. Kwame's heart sank. The forest was said to be treacherous, full of dark creatures and hidden dangers. But he also knew that he had no choice. He had to try. I'll do it, he said, his voice firm. Arane's eyes sparkled with approval. I knew I could count on you, Kwame, she said. But be warned, the forest is full of surprises. You will need all your wits and courage to succeed. Kwame nodded, his mind racing with the challenges ahead. He knew that he was taking a risk, but he also knew that he had to try. As he turned to leave, Arana called out to him, Kwame, wait, she said. He turned back to her, his eyes questioning. Be careful of the shadows, she said, her voice low and mysterious. They can be deceiving. Kwame's eyes narrowed, but he nodded and turned to leave. He knew that he had a long and perilous journey ahead of him. Kwame ventured into the heart of the forest, the trees towering above him like sentinels. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and decaying leaves. He had been walking for hours, but the silence was oppressive, making him feel like he was being watched. As he walked, the trees seemed to close in around him, casting deep shadows that stretched and twisted on the ground. Kwame's heart quickened, his senses on high alert. He had heard stories of the forest dark creatures, and he didn't want to become their next victim. Suddenly, a faint rustling sound came from a nearby thicket. Kwame's hand instantly went to the dagger at his belt. He approached the thicket cautiously, his eyes scanning the underbrush. As he parted the branches, a pair of glowing eyes stared back at him. Kwame's heart skipped a bit, but he didn't back down. Instead, he reached out a hand, palm up, in a gesture of peace. To his surprise, a small furry creature emerged from the thicket. It had the body of a rabbit, but its fur shimmered with an ethereal glow. The creature nuzzled Kwame's hand, and he felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. It was as if the creature was trying to communicate with him, to tell him something important. But what was the creature trying to say? And what lay ahead for Kwame in the hearts of the forest? Kwame stood there, entranced by the creature's glowing fur. He heard a faint whispering in his ear. It was a soft, melodious voice, but it sent shivers down his spine. Follow me, the voice whispered. I will show you the way. Kwame's eyes snapped back into focus, and he looked around, trying to see who was speaking to him, but there was no one in sight. The creature, however, seemed to know exactly what was going on. It nodded its head as if in understanding and began to hop away. Kwame followed, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. What lay ahead, and who was leading him deeper into the forest? As they walked, the trees seemed to grow taller and closer, casting long, ominous shadows on the ground. Kwame stumbled, his foot catching on a hidden root. The creature stopped and turned back to him, his glowing eyes shining with concern. But Kwame waved his hand, reassuring the creature that he was fine. He stood up, dusting himself off, and continued to follow the creature deeper into the forest. The whispering voice seemed to grow louder, more urgent. As they walked, Kwame's senses were on high alert, his eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of danger. But the creature seemed to know exactly where it was going. It led Kwame through the winding paths and hidden clearings of the forest until they finally emerged into a large moonlit glade. In the center of the glade stood an enormous stone statue, a surface covered in moss and lichen. The statue depicted a long-forgotten king, his eyes staring out across the forest. But it was not the statue that caught Kwame's attention, it was a glowing, crystal-like object that lay at its base. The creature hopped forward, its eyes shining with excitement. Kwame followed, his heart pounding with anticipation. As he reached the statue, the whispering voice fell silent. The forest was quiet, except for the sound of Kwame's enraged breathing. And then, in the silence, Kwame heard the sound of his own name being whispered back to him. Kwame, the voice whispered, "You have come." Kwame's eyes snapped up to the statue's face, and he felt a jolt of electricity run through his body. The statue's eyes seemed to be staring directly into his soul. But who was speaking to him? And what did they want from him? Kwame's eyes locked onto the statues, and he felt a strange sense of connection. It was as if the statue was trying to communicate with him, to tell him a secret that only he could hear. "Who are you?" Kwame asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The statue didn't respond, but instead, the crystal-like object at its base began to glow. The light enveloped Kwame, and he felt himself being pulled into a vision. He saw an ancient civilization, one that had possessed knowledge and power beyond his wildest dreams. They had built the statue and the mirror, and had builded the power of the reflections bend. But as Kwame watched, he saw the civilization crumble, destroyed by their own ambition and greed. The mirror, once a tool of great power, became a curse, feeding on the souls of the living. The vision faded, and Kwame found himself back in the glade, the crystal-like object still glowing at his feet. Arana appeared beside him, her eyes shining with a knowing glint. "You have seen the truth," she said. "Now you must make a choice." Kwame looked at her, confused. "What choice?" Arana gestured to the crystal-like object. "This is the reflections bend," she said. "With it, you can destroy the mirror and break the curse. But you must be willing to pay the price." Kwame's eyes narrowed. "What price?" Arane's smile was enigmatic. Your own soul, she said. Are you willing to give it up to save the kingdom? Kwame hesitated, weighing his options. But as he looked at the statue, he knew what he had to do. He reached out, taking the reflections beam in his hand. The crystal-like object pulsed with energy. Kwame felt his own soul begin to stir. With a deep breath, he raised the reflections beam, and a blast of energy shot out, striking the mirror and shattering it into 1,000 pieces. The curse was broken, and the kingdom was finally free.
Whispers in
But
the
as
wind,
Kwame stood there,
tales
the reflections
untold,
being still clutched in his
stories
hand,
of the brave,
he felt his
the
own
young
soul
and the
begin to fade
old.
away.
Through the
He
hills
had
and
given up his
valleys,
own life to
where
save the kingdom.
shadows roam.
And as the
In the
darkness
hearts
closed
of
in around him,
wanderers, dreams
Kwame smiled,
find home.
knowing that he had made the ultimate sacrifice. The
Rustling
kingdom would never forget the hero who had given his life to save them.
footsteps of the lost
Moral lesson: the story of Kwame and the cursed Queen Nyarai teaches us that true beauty and power come from within.
carried by the
The queen's external beauty was sustained by a dark and malevolent force, while Kwame's inner courage, wisdom, and selflessness ultimately led to his triumph. The story reminds us that we must be careful what we wish for, and that true freedom and happiness can only be achieved by embracing our true selves and living with integrity. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share and subscribe. Come back for more exciting and interesting stories like this.
in his young
God bless you.